design is everything, everything is design.
It's everywhere, even if it's unintentional.
Hi, my name is Mish Hancock. I am the co-founder of TEDxGatewayArch, and you are joining me with ArchFare. We've brought celebrated St. Louis design professionals into the beautiful and artistic Vicia, where design is central to the meals served. Together, we'll explore how design manifests itself in every aspect of our life in St. Louis, including our food. Today, I am here with Tara Galina. She is the co-owner of Vicia Restaurant. She owns this restaurant with her husband, Michael. Michael Galina is the chef, and Tara, as I've been saying, you do everything else, right?
Exactly.
So tell me about the design of the restaurant.
Yeah, so much of how we eat is with our eyes first, and so we wanted people to come into the restaurant and instantly feel like they were someplace different, like there was something special, but also a simplicity that really conveyed that attention to detail in the food, where we source things from, but not kind of hit people over the head with a farm-to-table kind of corny decor. So we worked really closely with a designer here in St. Louis. His name is Sasha Milinich, but it's really just focusing on, very natural elements, simple colors. It's sort of a variation on white to black, and then just letting ingredients on the plate really kind of be that pop of color.
So we're inviting some very design type people here tonight. What are we going to be dining on?
Yeah, so our tacos, which are one of our most popular items that I had mentioned, we are serving our purple top turnip tacos. So those will come with a variety of different garnishes like black beans, roasted peppers, our different hot sauces. And then you also have our prosciutto roll-ups, which are just really beautiful, spicy greens that are wrapped with prosciutto with a sesame and balsamic vinaigrette.
I'm getting super hungry.
We call them our naked vegetables. They're just beautiful raw. Tonight, I think will be radishes with a radish top pesto, some whipped ricotta cheese, and then we did save some dessert, of course, and our quince financiers.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for letting us into your
enjoy
restaurant
it.
tonight,
Absolutely.
Tara. Thank you. All right, awesome. Come to Vicia.
Please do.
Thank you. I am joined today by some of our former TEDx speakers and entertainers. Please welcome Paige Brubeck. You are of Sleepy Kitty Music and Sleepy Kitty Art Screen Printing Design.
That's right.
Raven Fox, an immersive video, light, and sound artist. Deanna Kuhlmann-Leavitt, you are the president of Kuhlmann-Leavitt, Inc., a multidisciplinary design firm. And Mike Conson, chairman and principal of PGAV, Designing Attractions Worldwide. Thank you all for being here. We are at Vicia. We are starting with some yummy food. You guys, please dig in and we can start talking about our subject today, which is design. And you are all very familiar with that design in many, many different facets. So let's start, Paige. When you hear design, what do you think about?
Oh man, I would say design is everything. It's everywhere, even if it's unintentional. However you're presenting a space or yourself, you are engaged in design. I come from a graphic design background and screen printing and also a band, so we're designing our set in a way and what we do on stage. But I love seeing how people interact with spaces and how just every way a spatial setup can influence behavior and ideas.
And space is a big thing with you, Mike, with what you guys do. And you are right now designing the space of your own office building.
That's true.
Correct?
Right.
But then you do these amazing attractions everywhere.
Yeah, and for us, I think space is equivalent to experience. I mean, we tend to put ourselves in the point of view of a visitor to the spaces. So it's not just space for its own sake, but space for the emotional impact on a visitor, how it influences the way people think and feel. So that's as much about what we are designing as the physicality of it.
We've talked before. I love how PGAV does think about one of my favorite, when Jim Weibel, who we lost last year, but Jim had shared with me how when he was designing the roller coasters, he was not only thinking about the people on the roller coaster, but the people that were not on the roller coaster, being a part of the experience by giving them a space to watch. You can wave at your loved ones as they're like screaming as they go by. Right. I think that's fascinating. It's a really different thought about an attraction, and not only the people in it, but also watching it.
Well, exactly. For us, experience is a social thing. So thinking about all those dimensions of experience is a big part of it for us.
And I know Deanna, so she also designed her office space.
Right. Well, I think Paige said it beautifully. I mean, design is all around us. We have a poster in our office that says, design is everything, everything is design. And I think that's true. Presentation is design, and the way you've done your hair, and the cars we drive, and
It's all there.
it's all there.
And Raven, you use really big canvases.
The spaces that I try to create are immersive. So using, video projection and lights and atmosphere, we're able to create, with new technology, some really amazing experiences. But it all definitely comes down to design, aesthetics, technology, and then the design of the technology. Sometimes the design needs to be actually invisible. We want to tell a story. We don't want to show all the props. I've always tried to look at it as mixing art, music, and technology to tell a story.
Design, I feel like, has taken this, is really at the forefront of a lot of what we're doing right now with our cities. So when you think of St. Louis, I mean, why does design matter in St. Louis right now?
For 9 years, I lived in LA, and then I came back, and the city I left was very different than the city that I came back to in so many good ways. And I feel like in the last 20 years since I've been back, it's really just gotten even more fantastic. I mean, there's so much to do. There's this big tech movement. There's a music movement. The food scene is fantastic. So I just love that design is playing a role in shaping all that. And I do think it is. Like, this restaurant is a great example of how beautiful design can enhance the simple experience of eating.
Yeah, and I mean, people don't think of St. Louis as being the birthplace of any kind of music, but yet Sleepy Kitty's doing some awesome things.
Thank you. Our most recent record is Bastard Orphan, which is covers from the musical Hamilton, but in our own style.
Look at where you are. Look at where we started. The fact that you're alive is a miracle. Stay alive, that would be enough.
And I guess that is kind of a way of design because I love musicals. I love lots of music, but I grew up listening to musicals and singing in choir, and so I have a major soft spot for that. And a lot of people, shockingly enough, in the rock and roll scene do not love musicals like I love them, and even say things like they hate musicals.
Really?
But I think of musicals as, I think of a lot of great musicals, and a lot of the ones that are the big ones have amazing melodies. So one of the things we try to do with Bastard Orphan is take some of these beautiful melodies from one context and put them in a new context and kind of translate them to people that might like Sleepy Kitty sounds and like the way that the palette we use with like abrasive guitars and kind of lo-fi tape hiss and lots of vocal harmonies in my style, and bring those melodies to that context. And there have been people who have said, I hate the original, but I like these versions.
Paige and I had a chance to work together. We did the rooftop of the City Museum.
That was a spatial design
experiment. We blew the whole thing with lights and projectors, and then I flew a drone up about, 400 feet or so above, and then landed the drone like right in her face. And then took off again. No, we wanted to get this really amazing sort of 360-degree look.
And I think tying into like the gems of St. Louis, like the City Museum is an amazing example of design and an amazing example of creativity and like what can happen when you break boundaries.
It's amazing design right there, City Museum. I mean, that's quite a gem in St. Louis, and I can't even imagine the thought process of putting that place together. I'm amazed by it every time I go in there, and it's always different.
St. Louis is such a great palette for artists, for visual artists, for musicians, for designers, architects, you name it. It's here, and the cost of living is phenomenal.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Mike, you've traveled the world. I mean, really, with the design that PGAV brings to the world, but here you are in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that you guys are here. Tell us about design here in St. Louis and worldwide.
Well, it's funny because when you get to travel to other places, you get to see the effect that design has. And one of the things I love is to go to a city where the minute you get off the plane, right? There's something about it that hits you, that you realize this is different, that it's a place where the vibe is presented in a way that shows you that design matters. And what usually, to me, that suggests is that that's a place with aspirations. You know, it's a place that aspires to be the best version of itself it can be. And I love, especially when they're drawing from the local talent, you know. And I've been living in St. Louis for about 32 years, and I feel like now is the most exciting time in terms of leveraging this local talent. But I think it's just, for me, coming to life. And it's just, for me, the possibilities are beginning to sort of just come over the horizon. So I'm really excited about it. I don't know if you can tell.
Well, good. Yeah, I'm glad you're excited. I mean, I am too, and I feel like, when it comes to, when I think of design and I think of the inspiration that must happen in your brains, I mean, to me, this is so much fun because I get to tap into your brains a little bit and find out, where does that inspiration come from? I mean, so Paige, do you wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning and with the, ta-da, I'm gonna go do this? Or
Sometimes.
does it, I mean, and I mean, is it something you see, or is it just a feeling you get, or?
I think, I mean, yeah, all of the above. For me, sometimes inspiration hits really, like, you see something and you're like, oh, I want to try something like that, or I want to combine these kind of ideas and these media. But sometimes it's like, I have a problem I need to solve. I have an assignment, or I have a job I need to do. I need to tell people about this show, or I'm doing a poster for an event or something. And you have to figure out, like, how to actually communicate that thing and get people to come to that show and get people to stop what they're doing, read the poster, because we see so much stuff all the time. And trying to catch people's attention, that is the challenge of design, and the job itself is trying to get people to stop and get your message, to actually internalize it, whatever that message is. In a spatial design situation, go this way to find this thing or whatever. You know, there's so many problems we need to solve, and ideally, good design makes it very smooth, and you don't even see that there is a problem you're solving.
I love that thought.
Yeah,
it's like the noise.
It's fluid. Yeah.
You know, Paige, I think you said something interesting when you said design also wants to be seamless. So I do some signage and wayfinding. We did the graphics at the St. Louis Public Library. And it's really important that, I think, people are led without feeling like they're being designed at. And I think that's true in so many kinds of design, that I often say the design can be as present as it needs to be. So if we work on a project and it ends up looking like we worked on the project, I'm not sure that's a positive thing. I feel like our design should be far more holistic within the environments that we work in. So I think I liked what you said there.
Yeah, and to add to that, the idea of seamlessness and all the different disciplines that get involved in projects sometimes, you know, whether it's music, whether it's media, whether it's architecture, you know, the person experiencing it doesn't care. In my mind, you know, who's doing what. They just care about how it all feels and how it all affects them when they're in the middle of it all. And so, you know, we do projects with buildings and engineers and architects and landscape architects and literally dozens of disciplines all contributing together. And our job is that no one's thinking about, oh, that looks like the work of a structural engineer there.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not the point.
So I do think that we are obviously in an age of collaboration. And I wonder if that isn't why St. Louis is really taking off. Because I do think that Midwesterners work well together.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of mutual regard in our community for other disciplines. We work with lots of different collaborators. And I think that may have something to do with the cool stuff that's happening now.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree, because, you know, a lot of people will come to the table with an initial idea, but not see the bigger scope of it. You know, I mean, it's great to see a building lit up, but then all the technology that it might take, the costs, the photometrics, the timing, the energy consumption. So those are electrical engineers. It gives opportunity for lighting designers. So there's lots of opportunity when an idea, and then, you know, we'll take that idea and kind of see how far we can go with it. But I'm very engaged and excited that this is true. Because for a long time there, I was wearing all the hats. you know?
Well, I
Or
think
Louisans.
a willingness to share ownership too, right? So if you're going to be territorial and not let people in on your brand of whatever, well, then you're going to limit your.
I mean, in St. Louis right now, collaboration is huge. We're seeing all these, we've got CIC, we've got Medici Media Space, we've got what's our Tech Artiste. I mean, all these different places that are inviting in people to collaborate with each other. A team has to have all those different minds, right? And I know we've all experienced this. I was talking to Tara, co-owner, right? And she said, she's like, well, I do mostly this and Michael does mostly this. Well, the whole restaurant wouldn't work if they both weren't taking their parts, right? And I think we find this in our whatever we're doing. We need to fill in those skill sets that we need, right?
Right. And be open to it.
I think people can see through that. So when something doesn't have the idea or doesn't have that authenticity, and you can do something that's like technically sound, but if it doesn't have substance, people will not engage with it. And
I'm totally agreeing with you. And if I might add, Paige, making some mistakes is good.
Yes.
Because, paint drips, right?
and sometimes that's the best part.
And sometimes that is the best part. Sound echoes. You get weird sounds in the air.
There you go.
One thing too I'd like to bring to it, we're talking about the rules breaking. My partner and I just did, with Sleepy Kitty Arts, we just did the design for the St. Louis International Film Festival. And we had, the design was, we wanted to be very vivid and very bright and very busy and kind of really highlighting the international thing. And it was kind of a collage of a lot of different environments. And we had text that was going full bleed, kind of off the border. And we've never had this experience before, but this was the one that broke design because no one would print it right. People would send it back and we would double check, like, do we have full bleed? And they're like, yep, full bleed, and we'd send the file and we're like, this is it, cut off this much. But it was the first time that people refused to print it as it was designed and as it was intended, and so it was interesting. They thought it was a mistake.
I think the film festival is a fantastic example of what a small number of people can do to bring something really fantastic to a city. I mean, just the variety of program, the number of venues, the outreach they do from a marketing perspective. It's fantastic.
The value of persistence, right?
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah, I
pushing
think so.
hard on the same task.
And people kind of showing up too. I think that's the other big part. Like, you can build these amazing places, but people have to feel invested, and somehow the film festival has done a great job.
It does make St. Louis feel like a busier city because you have a bunch of filmmakers and people coming to town and everybody running around the theaters, and I love it. I think it should be all the time that way.
As an organizer of an event, you don't have control over most of it. You're counting on the speakers to show up on time and do their thing, and you're counting on the venue to be prepared for you, and you really have to kind of let it go and just hope that the energy you've created comes through. So thinking of innovation, I have this thought that we all get stale at some point. What do you do to get yourself? I mean, I know what PGAV does for your people, that you actually send them, you give them money and say, go do something interesting to get yourself out of your regular everyday headspace, right?
Right. I mean, you bring your life experiences to bear on these tasks of design. And so you have to recharge those batteries all the time because it's a high intensity effort to do that, and it's so easy for you to need that kind of rejuvenation.
So you actually give people money and say, go take a class, go on a trip, do something.
Right. We give them all $1,800 a year to basically do whatever. As long as they call it enrichment, they can do it. And so we've had people go to the Galapagos Islands and
for $1,800?
Well, you'd be amazed.
Can you really go to the
Yeah, you should talk to some of our people.
There's books on how to do that for $20 a day.
Yep.
Wow.
Trust me.
Whoa.
So,
Yeah.
but the point is they come back with amazing life experiences, and some of them are simpler. Taking a calligraphy class. It's an incredible thing. So, but yeah, it's a constant challenge and a constant obligation, we think, on our part to do that for our people.
But what do you do? What do you do to recharge?
Well, we go on retreats every so often. We've gone to the desert in LA, the Mojave, we've gone to Chicago, we've gone to Arizona. So that's not every year because that's expensive, but we go on retreats. We've recently been saying, because our office is in a neighborhood in U City, University City, that we are going to start having meetings walking around the neighborhood, which we haven't done yet, but we plan to. And then just sort of the general, get out, travel. For me, I love to travel.
I agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That opens your eyes to a lot of things.
Yeah, it shows you new places and just how things work, and you see a different scene, or you see you're out of your own element, which I think does let your guard down in some way, and you
Plus,
can
you're
kind
not
of relax.
working.
You're not working.
When you're traveling, and I
important
try
sometimes.
to limit the phone when I'm on the road. But yeah, your mind is freer when you're traveling.
I agree, and I like. Well, it's kind of related. I feel like, but I think that a lot of times people who work for themselves and freelancers, which I am, it's easy to just kind of be working around the clock and not have a set schedule. But I always try to take Sundays off and do the crossword, and we have my partner and I are partners in design, but also in a relationship, and so we both it does help recharge when you're not thinking about work, and then you're excited to return to work, and it's like, oh, we have that design we're doing, we have that new poster, or we get working on that album artwork, and it kind of lets you want to come back to work. I feel like to have a day, or at least a day, or a trip can really inspire you, and you can come back feeling charged up, like, okay, I want to work on this thing.
Well, entrepreneurs, we have a tendency, we could work because there's always something to do, right? I mean, there's never not something, there's always something to do. I'll get myself really overwhelmed at times. Oh my gosh, there's so much to do. But the thing that really keeps me going is if I get really quiet and I just ask, what's my next step? What's the one next step I need to take so I don't get super overwhelmed, and just listen. That seems to help me and keep me kind of on a course, as opposed to I just want to go in a corner and cry because there's too much. I mean, that's sort of my way of recharging, is to stop and say, wait a minute, you don't have to do everything. You have to do one thing right now. What is it? It sort of helps me breathe.
I tend to try to go help people that I kind of put off because I got so busy, and that's my kind of way of getting away from my normal and then going and engaging with other people, because that definitely gives me an opportunity to give back, pay it forward, and it gives me a good feeling. So when it's time to jump back into hardcore project mode, I can focus because all of that's out of the way, and I let them know, look, I'm not going to be available for the next 6 months, so let's get it done now, and then that's kind of my way.
So do you guys have a dream for St. Louis? I mean, when you think of St. Louis as a city, and I mean, we're doing some awesome things, and as a city, I do believe we're really coming into our own, and we're not we're the flyover country, and we are proud of St. Louis. Do you have dreams for our city that you want to share? I do.
Yeah.
I have lots of dreams for our city. I mean, as TEDxGatewayArch, part of our mission is to create an inclusive and equitable community, and that is a big dream, but boy, wouldn't I love to see
worth
that
fighting
in
for.
I think my personal dream for St. Louis is better public transit for the city. I think it's the one thing that's holding back this city. And as a person who, I technically have a driver's license, but I hate driving. I'm very farsighted, and I always feel like I'm about to crash into everything, so I really avoid driving, and I walk everywhere I can, and I drive like a little, I'm like very slow, and I leave the radio. I was dropped off. I walk a lot, and I like to walk, and I think, like you said, like having walking meetings, you notice different things, and you can it's healthy, and it feels nice to be out and moving your body. And there is transit, and when you look at the Metrolink, like the one we have now, where it goes, it's connecting a bunch of neighborhoods, and it's very exciting. I think it's never going to be a functional thing until it has turnstiles, and I think this is a thing that the other cities like New York City and Chicago have figured out, and when they have problems with people jumping on the train, it's like, well, and yes, people will jump turnstiles. It's like one way to make it safer and make money coming into it is put in turnstiles. This is not a new thing. They figured this out in the two cities that have the best public transit in the nation, And when you look at St. Louis, it has that infrastructure, it has that Metrolink already there, and it's already connecting neighborhoods, and I think north-south expansion is absolutely crucial. And it helps expand to people who don't have cars for like financial reasons, or people who don't like to drive like myself, and I think that it gets people out more. Like when people are walking their city and taking trains and riding bikes, and all those things go together, like they connect each other, like you can walk for a while and then connect to a train or whatever. I think that does fill in the gaps of a city more, and you have a city fill in, and you'll see more neighborhoods pop up, and you'll see more opportunities pop up. And I think, well, one opportunity about St. Louis is there's so much vacant space still, and so much opportunity for improving things. There's so many blighted buildings that you can come to before you displace any neighborhood, and it's such a unique city in that way, that there's so much space to use. And I think that will be the way to like revive some of those neighborhoods, is real public transit in St. Louis. Get people on foot, on the streets, in the trains. Yeah.
Good thought. Let's get that going.
And the city county, I mean, it's so, can't we just be St. Louis? Why we have to have the city and the county and all the wasted resources from that. And I mean, books have been written about how bad of a system it is that we have. I wish for St. Louis that we would set aside our socioeconomic hang-ups and just be one big happy family.
Bring it all together, right?
What's your dream, Mike?
Your dream?
Yeah, Mish knows this because it's a drum I've been banging on for a while here, but I love Cortex, right? I love this area, the innovation district. I love its capacity to start new businesses. I love that it's supported by major institutions like Washington University. All of that is a great example of what we're capable of. But I have this dream of this level of development and advancement for the design community in St. Louis. And I think that all the parts are here. We have a leading design school, the Sam Fox School of Design at Washington University. We have awesome companies and individuals who can drive this forward. You know, you think about something like Launch Code as a way of teaching young people, perhaps from disadvantaged backgrounds, to learn this exciting new thing. We can teach them design. And the Sam Fox School has a wonderful program called the Alberti program, where they take young people and introduce them to design at the formative years, you know, 3rd grade through 11th grade, and they can learn this. They can become an architect or a graphic designer, and I think there's power in that, and I think it gets overlooked sometimes. That my dream has to do with that becoming a driving force in the development of the community.
To feed the future needs.
Yeah, and I think we're all there. You know, it's all here, and so we've invested with it financially, and our people volunteer their time.
That's awesome.
To teach in that program.
That's very inspiring. So my dream, I mean, I've lived here for 11 years, and my experience here has been phenomenal. But just as of recent, you know, I've noticed a real big social shift, you know, with people. And as an artist, I'd like to create a public artwork here that shows the unity and how united the people of St. Louis really are. I'd like to be a part of showing everyone, the world, that we're not what it seems like the media is portraying us to be. You know,
right.
And you know, and I don't want to get radical with the answer, but you know, racism, you know, sexism, you know, all of those isms, you know, that we struggle, whether we deal with them or not, somehow we're affected by that. I think that's real important. You know, I'm not quite sure how this dream ends up.
I like
that.
I
Needs
like
to
the
happen.
dream.
It does.
Yeah, that needs
I
to
like the
happen.
dream.
I like it.
All right.
Thank you all so much for being here and for being a part of our St. Louis community, and just for really being amazing and innovative people. We love you guys. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us here at ArchFare. This is presented by HEC TV and TEDxGatewayArch. We want to thank our guests, and we want to thank this wonderful restaurant of Vicia. More are coming.